All right. Good evening. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Boston to Philly podcast. We're excited to have another episode going. It's your girl, Glory, with my beautiful co-host, Rosa. And we're about to just get into it. So we have Ari Avara from Boston with a first-hand account at the DMX funeral. So, Avara, can you tell us, what's good?
Yes, hello, I'm Ari, Boston native. Really excited to be here to doing this podcast. Basically, so you guys wanted to know like how. Okay, so I'll start. DMX is the great. That's how I'm going to start it off. It's a blessing and an honor to be in the recent future of my life and past and present affiliated with his team. His manager, the CEO of Rough Riders, and their family. So I'll get to how I came to all of that in a minute. But basically, 10 years old, it was Tupac for me and DMX. I had absolutely all their projects that they ever released, ever created. Back in the day, it went from tapes to CD players. So they were literally like my brothers, like family I didn't have. I was so in love with the both of them as artists. Tupac in my head was like my future husband, and DMX was like, DMX is gonna be like my brother, like my homie. My goal in life was to meet the both of them. So the past 4 years as just an entertainer and an entrepreneur, I've just basically been traveling the United States. I'm a poet first, so just doing poetry, networking, and long story short, I know a lot of great like Boston artists. So my friend 40 Bars had asked me in like early or late this past winter, like if I could do something on one of her channels for her. So I said yes. And after that, DMX's manager had already just been close friends of mine and just watching me and things like that. But he told me that once like projects and things open up, like they definitely want me to help them out in creating, whether it's in the front, in the back, it really doesn't matter. They have so much going on of new content to come in the future. And I was actually supposed to meet DMX like the end of spring, early summer this year, but you never know. Life is really a funny roller coaster. So basically I got connected to DMX's manager, and the general, that's what he goes by, Darren D. Dean, one of the CEOs, after watching the Versus. I don't know if you guys saw it, but they had Versus DMX versus Snoop Dogg. And when I was basically I was just a super fan, but I don't know how many comments I made, which made DMX's manager actually find me on Instagram and start following me. So then I started following him, just speed up time. I stayed in, communication with both of them, and just great vibes, great understanding, great building, just waiting for something to come about, because COVID hit the industry harder than it hit anyone. There's no concerts. It's hard to find money. Everything's legit online right now. So if you weren't on like the roster, if you weren't supposed to be doing anything a year back, there's really everything standing still at this moment. So once the gates open up, I'm just excited, God willing, because that's what I like to say, because you never know what the future is going to hold, just the projects to come and working with them. So when DMX fell ill, I got like a direct text, and, it was his manager, just informing me of what had happened, and that at the time they just needed, the world to pray for him. And it kind of like, I don't know, it took me out a little bit, because I'm like, I always feel like everything's so personal. I'm like, all the ones I genuinely love leave here before I'm actually able to meet them in flesh. So now I have to wait.
Yeah. So when you were meeting DMX and you were going through this, what was one song that like really impacted you, that like really like was like, this is like the greatest about, this is the GOAT that I want to be and be with?
One More Road to Cross, like that is my anthem. Like I can just hear it. I can hear it. You know what I mean? Like his passion, his pain. It resonated with my whole life. You know what I mean? Like all my life, I just wanted to say hi to him, So I think his manager understood that. And so he's like, we're going to put you on the list to at least say goodbye to him. And so it's all just been really surreal. because you go from being a fan to being now behind the scenes with the stars. You know what I mean? So it's all just like, wow, I'm an amazing manifester. Like I wrote this down. I've been thinking about this for almost 20 years. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm watching it all come into play. So it's been an amazing ride, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
And it's kind of sad because right as you were getting to that point where you were actualizing,
Yeah.
passes away. Like, what was your initial feeling when you got that news?
But I don't want to cry. I was heartbroken. Because I literally have dreams. I'm so vivid in my visions, like of actually being able to meet him. So it was just like a blow to my heart. I'm like, all I wanted my whole entire life was a picture with this man, like super fan. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, oh my goodness. So to see and to be at his funeral and to process it all, I did have a time of just like mourning his loss because it's such a great one. You know what I mean? Like, we really think that we're immortal as humans down here. We really think we have forever. And then all of a sudden our plans, it doesn't really matter what we plan. You know what I mean? You just don't know what the future holds. So it's been hard. I'm still really processing, you know, like.
How did you feel when like the media made it seem like he died from an overdose? Like, because I know that kind of took me by shock and I had to like do some research, and then it came out that that's not really like why he was in here. And then they were like, oh, he's awake. Oh, it's like an emotional roller coaster almost.
Yeah. It was a lot because like I said, I was getting firsthand like information from the people, basically like his family. And so to hear what the media was saying was really heartbreaking, honestly. And it's like, to me, they always try to kick the legends, especially the legends of color. They try to kick them while they're down. You know what I mean? Like we all know what and how DMX led his life. Like once he is no longer in his body anymore, none of that really matters. You know, I think it was very disrespectful. I was also highly upset with Irv Gotti. Irv Gotti basically shamed his name on Hollywood Unlocked. I directly went to his page, like, you know, he would have never said anything negative about you had it been you. You know what I mean? Like you are really low for what you did. You know what I mean? And honestly, you're a fake friend, and that was nothing but jealousy. Because a
lot of people say that about Irv Gotti, though. That's not the first time I've heard some like fake. I'm also in the industry, so girl, I know like it's not the first time we've heard that Irv Gotti is like downed his own folks. Like
like it's just. I'm like, if I ever see that man, because I'm big on like out of the matrix, like I'll catch you on the corner in real life. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not about
catch me outside. How about
that? Okay, I'm not about to type war you. I'm not about to keep adding you. None of that. Like if I see you, you will understand on what you've done. Like those words brought me to tears at his funeral. Like, how dare you try to shame the greatest of all times? Are you mad? Because Murder Inc. was poop, you know what I'm saying? And you guys flopped long time ago. Are you mad that the world loves this man worldwide, shore to shore, sea to sea? Are you mad that they're the biggest gang? They're bigger than the police? Like what? State to state, worldwide? You know, it's crazy.
So let's have a listen from the audience. We have Areana.
Hi, so I just wanted to express how I feel about the whole DMX situation. DMX really, his music, Tupac as well, girl, I hear you. All the rap music I was raised on it seems like everybody's dying out, and it just seems like it doesn't stop. It's really hard to bring back, you know, good old rap, like not old, you know what I mean, but like rap that had meaning, rap that had power. And DMX, Tupac, Biggie, all of them had that soul, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my mom raised me on the good music. I'm not listening to whatever these kids are listening to nowadays, you know what
exactly.
I mean? They raised me good, and rap is so poetic. Rap has so much meaning. And this situation was such a big shock to me. I pulled up my Twitter and I saw that, and I was like, yikes. I saw that he was on life support, and that's when I was like, no, there's no way. There's no way no way. And when it happened, it was the biggest shock probably in the last 5 years as far as celebrity deaths go. That one hurt me and my family sincerely. That was awful. But yeah, he'll be missed. Definitely. Rough Riders for life.
Back. Gang. For real.
So how did you all feel when they prematurely said that DMX had passed?
I knew that it was his health was declining at that point in time. So it's really, I knew there was only a matter of minutes or days, but it was just, I had to actually tap out of the matrix because I don't like people playing with my emotional state or just, thinking that they have the right news, and it gets hectic when you're dealing with superstars. So I really chimed out of just listening to what was the media had to say at that point. It was just all too much for me.
Understood. So being in the atmosphere of like the funeral and everything, would you say it felt more celebratory? Was it like a mourning type of aura? Like, how was the ambiance within the place?
It was beautiful. I went to the Barclays Center. That's where Kanye performed, Nas spoke, the Rough Riders all spoke their piece. Watching his casket being brought up, and Kanye did an amazing performance, I must say, as well. The vibe was definitely like a roller coaster because they're blasting his music, so you feel like this is the club. You know what I mean? Like this is a concert. You're kind of expecting DMX, and then you realize like DMX is actually in his beautiful red shiny coffin. You know what I mean? So it was bitter. It was sweet. It was powerful. It was extremely sad. It was like an oxymoron. It was so many emotions at different times of the event. It was hard. It was hard.
In New Orleans, where I lived for 5 years, they have, when people die, they have second lines and they celebrate the life. And while people are sad, and of course there's tears, there's also this like almost jubilee to celebrate the life that they had. And as I watched like these videos of the streets of Brooklyn, right? It was in Brooklyn, just so alive for the first time in almost a year, right? We've been watching protests and we've been watching police brutality, and to see everybody come together, it just reminded me of the impact that this man had on so many people he never knew. And it was very moving. Even the moment where his ex-wife, reached out to, I can't remember her name, his current fiance.
Yeah, the fiance.
It was so moving. There was no negative. There wasn't any negativity. It was just all like, let's just love each other because we all know we're hurting, but we're gonna be supportive. And I think that was really a beautiful moment for our whole world to watch.
Yeah, no, it was heavy. I was literally, I'm still kind of just recuperating from the travel to New York. It was very draining. You know what I mean? Like funerals, all the energy. I think I'm still trying to catch up. Honestly, I've been exhausted. It's been my heart goes out to my friends. You know what I mean? Like it's just been really hard. Like Darren and Wah and Siobhan, all the Rough Riders, like they're all still very much in the mourning process. It's so new,
Wow. Thank you so much for being open to giving us like the first inside scoop. Is there anything that you would say to DMX fans that are still coping with his passing?
That he had ultimate faith in God, that he was really a warrior for the Lord. And even though, he battled shadows, which we all do in being human.
Right, we all do.
He just really loved us all. That's what I understand and understand. And I know that he's really still with us all, because legends, I'm grateful that they really do never die. And eventually we will all meet him again on our journey, in our path. I just say blast his music, keep him in your hearts, pray for the Rough Riders and his family, that they just get strength and encouragement every day, because it's going to be a long road. You miss them until you return home. So
Right. Thank you so much.
thank you for having me.
Yes, so this brings our first segment to a close. Thank you so much to our special guest.
Thank
We were
you.
so happy to have you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for sharing. It's emotional, but it's powerful and it needs to be heard. So thanks for coming and thanks for the words from the audience.
Feel the train.
All right, so fun fact, Philadelphia Rough Riders were featured in Boston to Philly. There was a scene shot at their headquarters. So fun fact for you all.
Yeah, the scene where Areana is, which is where we're about to talk about, is their headquarters. That is super cool. The Philadelphia movement and how the Philadelphia ties. It's crazy how, there were all these top level Philly artists looking to be the role of Big P, That's something I didn't know until, we dove deeper. You want to talk a little bit about those top three that were in the running?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and let the people know, major spoiler alert for this episode. So if you haven't watched the movie, you might want to skirt and then come back, okay? Because it's about to get juicy.
Yeah.
So now this is important to know. And the real life true legend of the role Big P. When Boston to Philly was being made, everyone wanted in who found out about it after the kickoff party made headlines on social scene in the city. Now, the producer of the movie, Boston, had to go through some wild roads to make sure he pitched them all in person to make sure they found out about it. But once he did, they all wanted to act in the film. They read the script, heard the story, and it was on. So eventually it came down to these three bona fide stars in Philadelphia. So Rosa, tell us about, the big three that wanted to go for Big P.
Okay, I like the way that sounds. Big three for Big P. So obviously Arab ended up securing the role for Big P, but we have two other Philly superstars that were going for the role. First of all, Philly Freeway. Okay, and then Gillie the King. Okay, these are two people from Philly that we consider legends. I consider legends. I go around these guys and I can't say anything. I just soak up all the knowledge. So it's really crazy to personally to know that they were in the running for this, because honestly, I can't see Gillie playing the role of Big P. Gillie is funny. He's a jokester when he's around. Like, I don't think I've ever seen Gillie be serious in real life, like get mad at somebody. Like, he's always kidding around. Like, you're in the studio, he's throwing the basketball. You're like, I'm trying to record here. But like, I couldn't see him do it. I think personally, Arab definitely like played the part better than any of the other two could, just because of his like stature. And like the way he like he got
the stature, right? I'm just like, yeah, like the Big P type of thing. It's just like Big P. The other two, Gillie the Kid and Philly Freeway, they were like, on the smaller side, like not to take away from their extensive resume and repertoire, but it's just like Big P, like Arab just looked like, that's my role, like that's mine. Areana, let's have some input from you.
So the other two, Gillie the Kid and Philly Freeway, I haven't heard of, so I did some research on them, and I completely agree with you, Rosa. They both seem like the role might have just not been for them. Arab seemed to just jump into it and give it his best shot and show what it was to be a strong black man. And you have to show he was so ready to take on that character that I was blown away by it when I watched the movie.
So when Boston to Philly first went public, they had a huge kickoff party where Mia Mendez was actually there. And so people of the city got to meet Mia Mendez, who actually has ties to Meek Mill, Jamal Hill from the classic movie Streets. And so it was this huge star-studded event. And it was almost crazy that it could have had these other two stars, Gillie the Kid and Philly Freeway, but it ended up in Arab's lap.
Right. So who is the better actor for the role? We have Gillie the Kid, we have Philadelphia Freeway, and Arab. So a little snippet on Gillie. Gillie signed a $3 million deal with Barstools to host the podcast.
$1 million worth of games, baby.
Yeah, Gillie is also an actor and producer for movies Blood Brother and Caged Animals.
He also wrote for Lil Wayne. Let's give him his flowers.
Right, got to give them their flowers while they're here. So,
yes, okay.
Rosa, can you tell us a bit about Arab and Philly Freeway?
So, Arab is from OBH, which is a music group, which is also labeled as a gang right now in Philadelphia. Arab just went to jail and got sentenced for 45 years, which they are appealing. But Arab was a musician. He's a rapper. He really does give back to the community as well. He's a role model to a lot of the people in Philadelphia and all over the world. Kevin Gates blasts his music. Lil Wayne blasts his music. So he's also an entertainer and musician. And so it's Philly Freeway. So Philly Freeway is another really world famous rapper who's worked with Roc Nation and Jay-Z. And it's just such a immense opportunity to have any of these three guys in the movie. You know, Freeway is still active in Philly culture. Gillie's still active in Philly culture. Arab still active in Philly culture and the news. So it really is a hard decision. But for me, it was quite clear that the role belonged to Arab. And as Shekinah said, it fell directly in his lap on purpose. Like when he punched Boston in the face. Can you imagine sweet Philly Freeway punching Boston in the face? Like, no, Freeway, don't do it.
Agreed. And
Freeway
so I
just like hella in community service. I don't know. I'd be like, what?
Definitely. I wanted to hit on that. I found out that Freeway actually has like a foundation or something. So he has founded Freedom Thinkers Academy Music, Health, and Education Division. So he's really in like the philanthropic spell check or word check me move right now. I also didn't know that he had a battle with kidney issues as well. So I saw that, but so initially Boston didn't know who to choose because he loved them all and he had to pick one. He ended up going with Freeway at first because he agreed, but then the day of filming, Freeway had a freak accident and hurt his back. Oh my God. And so he was out. Then came Gillie the Kid, who agreed to do it, but the timing was off. And then Arab came in and swooped it up, and the rest was history. An iconic film was made.
Yes, it was. And I think that energy was perfectly performed. He encompassed the role. Now, how about a note from our audience on who you think should have played Big P and if it was played correctly?
So honestly, I feel like Arab portrayed this role so well. There was a lot of shocking moments that he showed a side that we didn't expect, you know, just a little bit. From what you're explaining, the other two, I've done a little bit of research on them, and from what I can see, this might have been fate for Arab. Like this might have been something that he didn't expect, but when it came, it was a true blessing. You know what I mean?
And it's the only movie he's in, and he's sentenced to 45 years in jail. So it's like, this was an opportunity of a lifetime for him right now. And you never know what's going to happen. I hope he wins his appeal, but if he doesn't, then, you know, it's almost like a glimpse into who he was at that snapshot in time and who he got to be and the opportunity that was really in front of him that he seized. He seized it. He did it well. He's an actor and he made me believe him. I was shook. I was like, hey, Arab.
I was thinking that it's just like funny how the universe works because we had these guys casted and like freak things happen. One was in like a freak accident, and then it was pitched to like the other guy, and the timing was off. And so then it just like fell to AR Ab, and he just represented Big P like to a T. Like he did what he came to do. So I feel like it rightfully fell into the place where AR Ab should have had that role, and he represented it very well, top notch. Yes, well, it seems like we all have a general consensus. We are Team ARAB for Big P. So shout out to ARAB for executing that role just immaculately, wonderfully. I have no complaints. He killed that role. So yes, this brings us to a close for this segment, and we're just gonna expeditiously move to the next.
Feel the train.
Okay.
So we got a juicy question.
Which is again, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. All right. So the question is, should Philly have told Jared about Boston? Why or why not? Let's hear from the
backstory. Jared is Philly's kind of boyfriend who is now paralyzed, and like he's been injured in an accident. He can't use his speech. He's needing to be fed and taken care of, put in the bathroom. So he's immobile. He's in a wheelchair and he needs 24/7 care. With that being said, to the audience.
So while I was watching this movie, I did feel like in the beginning, Philly was definitely hiding something from everybody, obviously. And when I saw the reasoning, the a little bit of shadiness behind it, when I saw the reasoning behind that, and when I saw Jared, it struck a nerve in my heart, because I think about what would I do in that situation if my fiance right now went through something like that. What would I do? How would I benefit from the situation? And it's really hard to think about, because I do have people who are in relationships just because of pity. And that's not something the relationship is supposed to be about. You know what I mean? So the fact that I think that Philly should have told him off the bat. I think she should have gotten herself out of the situation. I feel like if you are already feeling a different kind of emotion for somebody else, then you're not feeling the same emotions that you felt for that other person, a month or two ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what do you constitute as cheating?
I don't know if I necessarily constitute what she did as cheating. I mean, I agree she was being a little sneaky about the situation. I think anything without the other person's, knowledge, I feel like that is kind of just, if it's not cheating, it's definitely sneaky behavior that nobody should have to tolerate. Even if he is going through this situation, I understand that pity was a big reason she was staying, and she felt guilty for the situation. But I don't think you should ever stay with somebody unless you're getting something out of the relationship as well.
It's also kind of apparent, because when he proposes, she runs out and goes to her car. She doesn't say yes. And then he gets hit, he gets in an accident, and it's like, oh, like, so she's technically never gave him an answer. And then when she does go to see ARA, right, it's kind of like he's like, she hasn't been here in a while. So it's almost like, I personally don't think she had any obligation to tell him, because he's not obviously able to be a partner to her. Like, she still wants to care for him. She still wants to, communicate with him, but she's in school. She's a young woman. And it's like, she obviously didn't say yes to your proposal in the first place. So it's like, why do we make it so that women have to do this? And I don't think that she owed him anything. And she went above and beyond to help him understand where she's going. Like, the heart wants what it wants. And, that's kind of Mia Mendez's way of really having that emotional pull to us and bringing our emotions, you know, like we were like, okay, why is she blowing off Boston when they have this chemistry? And then it's like, oh, this is a hard problem. Like, what would you do?
So how are we feeling about Rome initiating going out with Philly when they run into each other in the subway and they go on that adventure? How do we feel about that? Should she have obliged, or should she have like stood on her feet and been like, no, like it's not happening?
First of all, I don't like when men follow me ever. Like that first, it's like, it's intimidating as a woman when someone's following you. And so the fact that she even like gave him the time of day kind of shook me. I was like, oh, snap. But as I was talking about earlier, that chemistry that you have with a person, sometimes it's just deeper than all the other things that are going on around you. And she really like, she made it clear that she didn't want to talk to him. And he put out that like suave.
Suave, suave.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, like, why is she pulling away? Oh, I have a boyfriend. I say that to guys all the time. I do not have a boyfriend. I say that to get away. So at first I thought it was like kind of like, oh, like she just not trying to talk to him. She's, you know, dedicated. And then when we find out like what's really going on, I was like, wow, like, I don't know what I would do, man. How about from our audience?
Yeah, so I honestly feel like if I was in the situation of Philly, you know, just minding my own business, you know, maybe having some emotional time in the subway or wherever I decide to be, I know the feeling of love at first sight. I really do. But it seems like she was pulling away from it for a very long time, obviously, as you can see. And we can see that when Rome finally puts his foot down and he's like, forget it, I'm coming to your house. Like, I'm coming and I'm seeing what's going on. And that's when Arab decides to, well, Big P decides to, you know, do whatever he does. Yeah. But for him to go to such depths and for him to go and, you know, sacrifice himself like that just to show this girl that he does care about her, it makes me get a little frustrated with Philly because why are you being so hard-headed? You know what your heart wants. You know what you need as a person, as a female. This obviously isn't working for you, so go to a different situation, you know?
And be honest about it. Like, that's what frustrated me the most, I think, is that she hid it. And that's my biggest pet peeve in relationships. Like, don't hide something from me. I'm not going to get mad at you. Just be honest about who you are and what's going on. Boston just lost his parents. Boston would understand. And she didn't even give him the opportunity to understand because she prejudged him and was like, no, like, you're not going to understand this. And that's like, that's frustrating as like somebody who's also lost people. And I'm not saying I'm looking for love, but like, if it comes down my doorstep, I'm not going to deny it. And sometimes, like you were saying earlier, like people deny themselves of true happiness because they feel obligated to do certain things. And that's a societal standard. Like, you feel obligated to take care of somebody else, but it's really not your obligation to take care of anybody but you first.
I feel like that, but it's easier said than done. And it's just like, part of me, like, it was just like an emotional roller coaster watching all of that because it was just like, evidently she wasn't happy with her situation with her boyfriend in the first place because she wouldn't have gone on the little journey with Boston in the first place. Like, clearly there was something wrong at home. Like, their paradise was broken. So just like at one point I'm just like, okay, all right, like I'm feeling this, I like it, but then I'm just like, ooh. But it's just like now you've allowed yourself to like open a can of worms because now the tension is going to start building because you're catching feelings for Boston. And I definitely think that she should have told her boyfriend what was going on. I know that we have like the statement that like she shouldn't be obligated to, but I don't know. Like, I'm just thinking about myself. Like, I would want to know. I don't want to be out here like looking stupid. Like, You need to let me know that you caught feelings for somebody else, so that way, like, I can mentally prepare or do what I have to do so that, like, the heartbreak won't be as bad, or we're praying that it's not going to be as bad. I really do think that she should have been more open, but it's easier said than done. You don't know what you're going to do until you're in that situation. It's tough.
And he took it hard. Her boyfriend took it hard. He was, he's nonverbal, but he was just broken and upset. And he had just proposed to her before his accident. He was just so distraught by this pain of watching the woman that he loved love someone else.
Areana, I also have a question. With the proposals and everything, a lot of women have been getting bold with telling their significant other no. So my question is, should men publicly propose to their want to be fiancé? Is that a risk that they should take, or should that be done privately?
We can go to the audience first.
Yeah, so about that, first of all, I'm very proud of women for saying no and not feeling like they are obligated to do anything for men or for any other person. I'm very happy that women are finally sticking up for themselves in that sense. If you're not happy, you leave, Honestly, my engagement was very private. Like, since COVID happened, like he dropped to one knee when the ball dropped on New Year's, and it was in our house. It was just the two of us. That was perfect. If he would have done it in public, I would have probably had too many emotions. I would have probably acted like Philly in that situation in a lot of ways, because even if somebody at Texas Roadhouse is like, hey, it's her birthday and I have to get on the saddle, I'm like, no, I can't do it, and I'll cry. Like, I have too many emotions to be able to do it in public. But more power to the people who have the guts to do it in public.
That's the thing is, honestly, I don't think you should be proposing to someone if you don't know how they like it. And this is a talk about people's love languages. There's this really great book called The 5 Love Languages, and it talks about how different people like to be loved differently. Like me, please propose in public, nice big scene. I want the dancers to pop out of everywhere. I want the fireworks. I want the bottle of champagne. I don't even care how big the ring is, but I'm a big girl, so bigger is better. Okay. But not everybody is the same. And if you haven't had a conversation about marriage with someone, you shouldn't be marrying them, okay? Like, and that's a huge problem for women these days. We don't want to say no to hurt somebody's feelings. We don't want to say no because of all these reasons. So if you're not having this dialogue with someone, you shouldn't be proposing regardless, whether you're a woman, a man, a they, a them, a him, a her. Don't propose to somebody unless you know what they want, because that would just, eradicate the entire issue. You'd know that they want to get married. You'd know their ring size, and you know what they want. And with that, it's like common sense to me. Just ask a question of your partner.
All right. So I think I kind of have to play the devil's advocate. And, possibly Sai was saying that Philly shouldn't have told her boyfriend about the situation. Only because it's just like, who's to say that he wasn't out there doing his dirt as well? And it might sound like a little messy, but it's just like something seemed not right about their relationship. She wasn't happy. We didn't get too much context. So it's just like, who's to say that he wasn't out there talking to another shawty, or, he was having his cake and eating it too. You know what I'm saying? So what do y'all think?
He was paralyzed. You mean before the accident? Or after the accident?
Before he was
yeah, see, that's the thing. The way she ran away from him made me feel like she don't need to tell him anything, because when she ran away from him when he proposed, it was like, to me, like, if somebody proposes to me, I'm like, yes, oh my God, I love you, because otherwise you shouldn't be proposing to me. You know what I'm saying? So like, that to me showed me that she was cutting it off there. And kind of like what our audience member was talking about, it was pity. Like, she stayed for pity. So like, I don't think she all the way owed him anything. I think it was kind of her to give it to him, to give him an explanation. But I don't know. What do you think, audience?
From both sides here, I can kind of see what what's going on. Yeah, I did say the whole thing about, somebody staying in a relationship strictly for pity. And, honestly, I've been there, done that. I feel as though relationships nowadays have been, blocked by communication and things like that. So I feel like we don't know the whole backstory on Jared. I feel like you can't really judge a book by its cover. There might be some things that she didn't want to tell because maybe his brother was going to get involved. Maybe Big P was going to get involved. It's one of those things that you can't really say what you would do unless you were experiencing it, unless you were in the middle of it. You know what I mean? And I think Mia Mendez did a great job at portraying this emotion. You could tell that there was even maybe some empathy in her role. And honestly, I feel like I empathize with that character. I feel like we can all empathize with that character, giving consent to something that we didn't really want to stay in, giving consent to something that we really did not need to. And as women, we feel like we're supposed to bow down and, stay with our husband, fiance, whatever. But we really don't need to anymore. And I'm glad that women are taking a stand. I'm glad that Philly did tell, but I do see the opposing side as to maybe not telling Jared, trying to keep that normalcy alive just a little bit. And that's a situation that I can totally relate to.
So I have a hypothetical quick question. So if you're out with your significant other and they get hit in the head by like a flying brick, they lose a bit of their brain cells and they lose like ability in the left side of their body. Are you going to stay with them or are you going to leave them because you want to be with someone that matches you fully physically? What would you do?
Is polygamy an option here? Because at this point, if you really love me, you're gonna want what's good for me too. Like, you're not gonna want me to live the rest of my life not having somebody to talk to, right? So I think that I would leave. If you weren't comfortable with me being with somebody else at the same time, I would leave. Like, I would always be your friend. I'm a great friend, and I think that every good relationship starts with a foundation of friendship. Okay. And real friendship never dies unless you do some snaky stuff, right? But I honestly believe that she did the right thing. She followed her heart.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's just a communication thing. And I feel like this generation and communication, there's a disconnect.
There is something to be said about the fact that Philly telling Jared about Boston imposes more trauma upon him, right? He can't say anything back. He can do anything about it. He can't fight for his relationship. He just has to sit there and take it. Sit there and watch the woman that he loves go sleep and love somebody else. So yeah, maybe Philly could have not told him and hid it from him and just came and visited and really made his life a little easier, because telling him definitely caused him trauma. It hurt him. You see him just beyond besides himself when she says it. When she says, I met somebody else, he starts crying. And this, in society, to see a man cry, men often feel like they can't cry. How about you? What do you think?
I think that honestly, that her telling Jared may have been a very big a big step in what she felt like she should have done. But I just want to real quick say that the actor who played Jared really covered all his bases when it came to that role. He had no lines. Well, in the beginning, in the beginning of the relationship, he did, but you could see his emotion just come out of his body. He looked like he was in real, like, not only physical pain, but like very emotional, mental pain. And I can tell how it hurt him. But honestly, I feel like he was definitely better off learning as opposed to hiding it. And then he find out another way, whether Big P tells him or somebody else. And I'm surprised Big P.
Right. Big P did punch him in the face, did punch Boston in the face. So eventually, if Philly didn't do it, right, Big P, I don't even know how Boston got the address, number one, to this spot. But number two, if he did tell him, then it's almost like a sense of betrayal, but it's still like, I think Philly could have preserved his mental well-being, or at least a little longer, you know, maybe have a little spot of compassion for the guy that just got in a severe accident.
There's just two quotes that come to my mind. I'm really torn on this whole topic, but what you don't know won't hurt you, and the truth will always come to the light. So it's just like, yeah, playing the devil's advocate. If he didn't know about it, he could, you know, have some peace of mind, not have to think about, you know, what his girlfriend is potentially doing or what she had done. But then it's just like, I really do believe that the truth does come to the light. So if he didn't hear it from the horse's mouth, somehow, some way, he would have found out. And it could have like potentially just been even more disastrous because he didn't find out from his lover. He found out from another source. So again, it's that battle between what you don't know won't kill you, what you don't know won't hurt you, or the truth will eventually come to the light.
So with that being said, we're going to close out this segment, but I think what we can all agree on is everybody is different. So make sure you have this communication in your relationships, or you're going to end up running away from an engagement proposal. Like, okay?
Feel the train. Back at it again. Yo.
Okay, y'all. So let's talk about the fact that Texas wants to make it a law that you don't need a permit to carry a weapon in public. And what this means for the future of Texas and the rest of our country, if everyone is carrying a gun without a license on the street.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
It's the accent for me.
I'm like, at this point, can Megan Thee Stallion be governor or Sandy Cheeks from SpongeBob be governor? Because it's a lot going on with Texas right now.
There's been a lot going on with Texas. They needed to let them secede from the union and go when they wanted to go. Goodbye.
It's tricky because it's just like basically people that could not have guns in the first place now will have access to them, and I don't know under what parameters they're going to fall under, but I feel like more crazies will end up with guns and there will be more murder.
Like, don't we want gun control to get more effective, not less effective? Like, to be honest, like, there's supposed to be mental health checks for every person that gets a weapon. Like, and that's especially in Texas not happening. And it's like, aren't we wanting these mass murderers and these mass murders in schools and churches and all these people that are dying because of guns to stop, not continue? People aren't dying from getting killed on the street at the level they are getting mass murdered. Our country is like number one in mass murders. Like how many have we had in 2021 alone aimed at minority groups? The Asian church, right? The nail salons. Like, it's just mind-blowing that people could think that adding guns to the situation would fix anything that's going on. It's like they want to flex their ability to point guns in people's faces. Like, I can kill you if I want to because I have stand your ground.
Ugh. Right. Let's hear from the audience. Areana, what input do you have for us?
All right. So living around my area, I have seen a lot of, guns and hunting and fishing and yee and all of that. You know what I mean? And honestly, I feel like guns even around here have been becoming more and more of an issue. Back in when I was in school, I actually lost a friend to an issue with a gun. And I just feel like there's a lot of people who are struggling to realize the effects that this Second Amendment really does have on the rest of the United States, on the Sandy Hook survivors, on the parents, on, starting all the way back in Columbine. Like, guns have always been a big issue. They are meant to be here in case we need to overthrow the government or whatever, but yet we are using it as some sort of power trip. I do not know what we're getting out of, having a little pew pew in our pocket. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
I appreciate what you said about losing a friend to a gun. My freshman year of high school, my friend, may he rest in peace, shot himself in the head with his parents' gun that was unlocked in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
That's really the exact same situation I had. That's really the exact same situation, except I was in sixth grade.
Dang. And it's just like, why? Like, England has no guns. Their cops don't carry guns. And yes, they have higher amounts of stabbings, right? But you can't stab 500 people to death at once. You can't stab 20 people to death at once. But with an automatic rifle, you can kill all these people. Okay. And it's like it's like heartlessness. Like this, oh, if you're in America, you can be the American dream and we should have these rights to do all these things. But there's about time that we admit that the America that everybody thinks is there is not there. This America is not here. Nobody has privileged off this America but white people, especially white men. And it's about time that we tell them it's time to stop. Like, we are the majority. The women, look at us three women. We are the majority. And it's about time we stop these men from controlling, and these crazy white women from controlling these issues. Like, we really need to get people into government, because if we had people like us in government in Texas, this would never even be a question.
The thing is that guns themselves are like not the issue. It's the people behind getting the gun. A gun can't do anything on its own until somebody gets behind it and pulls the trigger. So that is enough in itself that we need screenings, we need laws and regulations before we just let people be out here willy-nilly with a gun, or decide like one day I'm going to wake up and, you know, go and mass shoot people. So I don't think it's going to be an impactful or a very good decision. I feel like Texas in general, the culture there is very volatile anyway. So I just foresee like a lot more like killings. I just see a lot more slaughtering going on. I would love to be proved wrong, but it's just like I feel very weary about this new regulation, or lack thereof of this regulation. Areana?
Texas has, oh, sorry, go ahead.
What I was going to say is I feel like the fact that we have AK-47s in our home, the fact that we have AR-15s in our home is a ridiculous thing. Like, what I think, why don't we just have like those big guns at like a shooting range and you rent it out, and that's how you get your fun gun time for the day? You know what I mean? There's no reason you should ever need an automatic rifle, not even for hunting. I don't care what you're doing. There's no reason behind it. Have a shotgun. Maybe have a shotgun in your house for protection, but nothing that, you know, that you'd see in a video game. It's nothing. This is real life, you know, and people are dying. And that is something that we really need to focus on.
And mental health is a huge issue. The fact that we don't have universal health care in this country as a superpower, and we don't take care of our people's mental health, this is what is killing people. People are going crazy, or born that way, and they're getting their hands on weapons without checks. And now Texas wants to make it even easier for people to carry guns in public. These traffic violations, right, where people have the traffic stops and they hit each other's cars, they have an accident, and somebody gets killed in the accident because somebody gets mad. Like, being mad at somebody for hitting your car is not a reason to shoot them. And so not allowing people to carry guns in public without a purpose and without a gosh darn piece of paper that says you're trained, like, come on now. And I think that we're all quite consensus on this. Like, we came to a consensus, like, Texas, get your stuff together. You guys don't need to have guns everywhere you go, especially not in malls and theaters and schools and churches, you know? That, Shekinah?
I mean, you said what needs to be said. I don't think we really have to beat that dead horse. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't know what the state of America in general is going to be. I feel like this pandemic has allowed a lot of craziness to ensue, and we are just like, we're subjects in this weird simulation. And I just hope that I survive. I hope y'all survive. May the odds ever be in our favor, because we know it's feeling like the Hunger Games right now.
For real, especially in Philly with over 170 gun deaths this year. It's May. That's 90 days, right? 30, 60, 90, no, 120 days, right? We've had over 160 gun deaths in Philadelphia alone. There is a problem. It's maddening. You go to the cemeteries and they're all fresh graves. It's saddening, and Texas needs to get their stuff together. Okay.
Point blank Periata. Well, we have covered so much ground.
Yes.
And it's only going to get more spicier, more juicier, more emotions. It's only going to get better, y'all. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to our wonderful audience. It's been real, and we can't wait to see y'all for the next episode.